So we've got all our component parts for our bunny, and it's time to start stitching it all together. We're going to do it in stages and make it hopefully sort of help with some tips and techniques as we go. So we're going to be starting off with the like the leg crease part, which I think actually is the trickiest part, so it's handy to get that one out of the way before we get going. So it's going to make this little sort of folded part. Let's have a look at how that's done. Right, so we're going to match up two of our markers. I know it's tricky to see because of the camera, but if you look at the little tail as orientation, you've got these two markers. You've got one just about in line with the tail and one at the top of this haunch or hind leg here. This one is the hind leg crease marker, and this one is the lower hind leg crease marker. And the first thing we're going to do is put right sides together and match up those 2 points. So there. And we're going to start by stitching, back stitching along this little part here. Now before we do that, I want to look at some forward planning to help you, because it took me a bit of head scratching to get this sorted out. I've taken that stitch marker out because what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to pin all the way through both sides to hold it together in the stitch marker position where it was. So let me just do that first, then I can take this one out and talk to you about the next two that I want to line up. I want to now line up the foreleg marker and the belly marker. Now those are dead easy to see where you want them lined up, because it's where the colours transition. So where the cinnamony colours end and the paler colours begin, that is, for my money, where they want to be lining up. And if I look on my sample, that's exactly what's going on there as well. So it's just under the forelegs. So on your pattern, I think you should be asked to line up foreleg back marker and belly marker. But like I said, lining those two up is absolutely fine. And I'm going to put a pin in there as well. Now, before I go any further, you're going to see really clearly that there is more of this side than there is of this side. So there's more that we've got to somehow fit in to a smaller space here. If you've ever tried to fit the sleeve, if you've ever done any dressmaking and fit the sleeve into a jacket or blouse or something, you'll know what's going on here. So to begin with, we'll address that in a minute. Don't worry about it. That is intentional. So don't think that you've made a mistake or anything like that. You really haven't. It's meant to look like that, but I'm going to show you how to deal with that shortly. So before we get to that point, this little section here where we've pinned, that's about even. There's not too much easing needing to go on there. So I'm going to just start by sewing that together. And we're using a lovely easy peasy back stitch throughout here. So that is helpful. And what I'm doing is I'm putting my needle sort of under the first stitch of the cast off edge and just back stitching. So I'm just going to whiz along there up to the place where I've pinned, and then we'll stop and have a look at how we can get that to work. Right, I'm all secured there now, so I'm going to take that pin out because I don't need that anymore, and I am ready to continue. So I've now got, I'm joined all the way to here, and I've got to work all of that into just this place here, this little bit here. And the way we're going to do that is by easing it in, and what that means is basically moving the part where there is too much fabric so that it can kind of more of it can feed into the part where there is less fabric. And I'll show you how I've found works best for me. I basically do 2 stitches at a time and then move the fabric a bit. So if I come through here and do 1 stitch and come through again for my 2nd stitch, before I do anything else, I'm going, actually I'll take that out and just do the 1 stitch. I'm just going to, I'm exaggerating the movement here. This isn't what I'm, you know, it's an exaggerated version of what I'm actually doing. I am pushing this fabric like so into position while sort of holding the back one a little more taut. And as I pass my needle through, holding that in place, it will catch in to sort of gather up a little bit more than we've used at the back. So I'm going to do that again. Again, exaggerated, it's this kind of motion, but just sort of gathering it in a little and putting a stitch through to hold it. And I'm going to keep doing that until this amount sort of lines up again. So exaggerated this kind of movement, just sort of pushing and easing is the word, easing it into place. Okay, we're nearly there. If you look, it's not too different now, is it? But I'm just going to do a little bit more easing. And when I get to the end of this, you'll see what we've created with this motion. Okay, one more maybe. Okay, so if you look now, we have got a nice even match between how much we've got to sew together, and we've got over here a bit of 3D going on where we've eased that in. And let me just finish up this bit and I'll show you by turning through what that looks like. Right, so I've sewn that all in. Let's just turn it through and have a look. Right, so when I've turned that through, what you'll see is that we have created like this little haunch that's going to become the back leg. So like I said, it almost like putting a puffy sleeve in a jacket or something is what we've created there. It's fabulous actually, isn't it? It's lovely. So that's the first part of it. So what we've done is slightly out of order of the pattern, but I personally think that that works better for me, because if you remember, we'd already done the 4 legs. We'd worked those earlier, or I showed you how to do those earlier when we made the 4 legs themselves. So if you haven't sewn them up yet, that's fine. You can kind of stop and do those now, or whatever you want to do. But we have, if you're looking at your pattern, you have now, if you've done this bit, done the join hind leg crease and join belly. So I'm just going to do the same on the other side, because we need to have that whole piece done, because we're going to do a little bit of stuffing shortly. So I'll get to this point on the other side and we'll have a chat. Right, as you can see, I've lengthened the space between the camera and the bunny. So I'm working completely blind, which means if you can't see any of this, I apologise profusely. Right, so you will see that I have joined those back pieces on both sides now. And I'm going to turn this through. This is just delightful. I love it. And just ease out. You see the little top leg, or top of the back leg, not top leg. That means nothing. And you can see he's sort of starting to take on that bunny shape now. So before we go any further, we're going to fill him up with toy fill. So I'll do that first. I would say when you're looking at your stuffing, it's very compressed in the box. So just pull it out and give it a I had a tiny bag that much full. Not sure what that is in weight, but I'm just kind of fluffing it out first, and I think that will be more than enough for now to go in there and into the haunches. Don't need to be overly, always quite chubby there, so just be, if you look at this little guy, he's not overly chubby, and I don't want my little fella to be overly chubby. I've got to do some more on the head in a minute, but for now I think that will do. Right, we've stuffed a little bit, but we'll deal with evening that all out on adding or taking away a bit later on. But for now, we're going to just finish off the head. And I've turned it upside down because we're going to be working out like so. And if you can see at the moment, everything is right side facing. We can't really do wrong side to wrong side anymore. So can you guess? Can you guess what beautiful stitch we're about to deploy? That's right. It's mattress stitch again. Now, if you look, you can see clearly where the chin part ends, because it's just a cream section at the very kind of top of this body part here. It's a cream section, and that cream section is going to join into our muzzle section here. So feel free, if you want to pin it. You can happily pin it if you want to, just to hold it where it needs to be. Just to kind of keep a guide for you. You don't need to, but you can if you want to. So what I'm going to do, as the pattern suggests, I'm going to start at the centre point and do one, and then start again at the centre point and do the other. So I'm going to do those two little seams before we do anything else. Now, we've done enough, I think, of mattress stitching in past videos that we don't really need to go through it in any great you know, no great learning point here. I think at the moment we're more interested in what gets joined to what. So have a little flip back at some of the earlier videos. We did mattress stitching up the nose, for example, if you're not sure how to do that. But for now, I'm going to mattress stitch those two seams and see you at the end. Okay, so that is now closed. That's the chin closed. So I'm going to fasten off this yarn, and then I think what we're going to do is stuff the head, and that will help us to shape out the cheeks and nose. So I'm just going to fasten off here and then do some head stuffing. Right, I've stuffed the head, and to be honest, it doesn't take very much at all, because you don't want a really big fat-faced bunny, but I still believe that you kind of got to go with it until it's all finished, and then you can mould it properly. Certainly not like that. Mould it properly at the end when you've finished. Gosh, I do hope those eyes go into a slightly better position than they're in at the moment. You can mould it properly when you've finished joining everything else together. So before we continue, we're going to make him have a little nose, and I think that's going to help a lot with the bunnification of him. So we're going to use, we've got loads of this lovely pink left, and we're going to use some of that just to embroider a nose on him. Or her. Right, so threading up the pink yarn, and I'm just going to come in, I'm going to kind of fill the triangular part, just a little triangular part here I'm going to fill. So I just want to sort of get my needle in the right position. And just secure that yarn in place first. Okay, now embroidery I love, but I'm truly awful at it. So, but you know, I will give you the basic suggestion. And because you've got this lovely triangular point, if you like, where you joined what's going on there, where you joined the nose to the muzzle earlier, you can literally follow the line of the stitches up to create a little nose. You can always go back over if you miss a bit, like I've just done. It's really interesting to see the personality, I guess, of the bunny coming out as you as you give it its little face. And I apologise unreservedly to my bunny, but I have high hopes yet that it's going to turn out beautifully. I think that will do. Don't need too much of a big nose, so I will paint. Oh, look, I've got a stitch marker in there. I need to take that out. Just turn it through and sew off the ends. So this is why you're doing this at this point, because it's just easier to access the back. Okay. There we go. We're getting a lot more bunny-like. Fab. Right, so we're now going to do... I'm sorry, I can't resist. Don't worry, we will push that all into shape in a minute. But we've only got kind of 2 parts left to join up now, and those are going to be joined in the same way that we've just done the little chin and neck, or the chin up here. That is to say, we're going to mattress stitch. So if you want to, you can pin it closed. I don't really see any great need to do that because you're going to be working all the way down there, but let's have a look and see how we need to do that.